You walk around this building and everyone is so supportive and so excited about what is happening with the Fever. And
what if the most electrifying athlete in sports, the one single-handedly rewriting the rules of fame and fortune, was secretly being pushed to her absolute breaking point? We see the dazzling logo threes, the no-look passes, and the confident smile plastered across every sports network. But behind the curtain, a brutal, unseen war has been unfolding. This isn't just about hard fouls or rookie adjustments. It's a story of a calculated campaign designed to dismantle a phenomenon before it could fully take flight. Now, a rival coach's ice-cold final verdict has laid bare the shocking truth, and the Indiana Fever's own general manager has just confirmed the devastating emotional fallout. A private struggle that reportedly left Caitlin Clark in tears, with her biggest and most cherished dream turned into a public and humiliating nightmare. This isn't the story of a rookie's tough first season. It's the meticulously documented story of an orchestrated takedown. And the truth behind the headlines is far darker, far more personal, and far more shocking than anyone has dared to imagine. The arrival of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA wasn't just a draft pick. It was a cultural and economic seismic event. They immediately coined a term for it: the Clark effect. It was a tidal wave of attention and money that the league had never experienced before. Ticket prices for Fever games, both home and away, skyrocketed, with some venues seeing a 1,000% increase. Teams that once played in front of sparse crowds were suddenly selling out arenas, forcing them to move games to larger NBA stadiums just to accommodate the demand. For the first time in history, the entire Indiana Fever team was flying on charter jets, a luxury previously unheard of, all because of the gravity of one 22-year-old player. Viewership numbers shattered all-time records, with networks like ESPN and ABC practically fighting to broadcast her games. She was hailed as the savior, the golden ticket, the transcendent star who would finally elevate women's basketball to the mainstream prominence it had long deserved. On the surface, it was a perfect fairy tale, a testament to her incredible talent and marketability. But for every sold-out arena, the unseen pressure mounted exponentially. For every new merchandise sales record she broke, the target painted on her back grew larger and more vividly defined. This was no longer just about playing basketball. She was carrying the immense weight of an entire league's financial future and cultural relevance on her shoulders. And behind the scenes, a different, more cynical narrative was taking shape. The veterans of the league, the women who had toiled for years in relative obscurity, fighting for every scrap of media attention and every dollar in their contracts, were watching this newcomer arrive and instantly soak up all the light, all the money, and all the glory. And many of them weren't just going to stand by and applaud her coronation. They were ready to send a brutally clear message, and it was going to be delivered with unrelenting physical force. The fairy tale was about to come face to face with a cold, hard, and painful reality. That harsh message didn't take long to arrive, and it was anything but subtle. The welcome mat to the WNBA wasn't rolled out. It was pulled out from under her feet, sending her crashing to the hardwood. The physicality directed at Caitlin Clark from the opening tip of her first game was immediate, shocking, and deeply alarming. She was relentlessly pushed, shoved, and knocked to the floor in ways that went far beyond the boundaries of typical rookie hazing. The aggression reached a fever pitch in a now infamous moment involving Chicago Sky's Chennedy Carter. Away from the ball, with the play happening elsewhere, Carter didn't just foul Clark. She delivered a vicious, blind-side hip check, a cheap shot designed for no other purpose than to inflict pain and intimidation, followed by a torrent of verbal abuse as Clark lay on the floor. The league office later upgraded the foul to a flagrant 1, but the damage was already done. It was a public statement, a declaration of war. This wasn't just basketball. It had become deeply personal. And it wasn't an isolated incident. Other players seemed to follow an unspoken directive. Hard screens from players like Betnijah Laney felt less like basketball plays and more like deliberate attempts to run through her. Elbows that always seemed to find their mark. Off-ball shoves that sent her stumbling out of bounds. And a constant, wearing physicality were designed to break her down, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The debate exploded across social media and sports talk shows. Was this simply, "Welcome to the pros," or was Caitlin Clark being deliberately and systematically targeted? Was this raw jealousy over her historic Nike endorsement deal and the unprecedented media fawning? To millions of viewers, it looked less like legitimate competition and more like a concerted, league-wide effort to bully and break the league's brightest new star before she could truly establish her reign. But the war being waged on the court was only one front of the assault. The psychological games were just beginning, and they were about to be masterfully deployed by a very powerful and very credible source. Every great drama needs a powerful antagonist, and that rival's perspective can often land with the weight of an undeniable judgment. Enter Stephanie White, the head coach of the championship-contending Connecticut Sun, and, in a twist of irony, a former head coach for the Indiana Fever. As a revered figure in women's basketball, a former Purdue legend and WNBA champion herself, her words carry immense institutional weight. When she finally spoke on the burgeoning Caitlin Clark controversy, it wasn't with the fiery rhetoric of a trash-talking opponent. It was with the cold, calculated precision of an expert surgeon delivering a final, unsparing diagnosis. White didn't coddle the popular narrative that Clark was purely a victim. Instead, she spoke about the harsh, unforgiving reality of the WNBA, the inherent toughness required to survive, and the unwritten rule that no player, regardless of their fame or college accolades, gets a free pass. Her meticulous analysis, while framed in professional language, was interpreted by the entire basketball world as the league's unspoken truth being laid bare for all to see. Caitlin Clark, for all her offensive genius and generational talent, was not yet ready for the big league's brutal, punishing reality. This was Stephanie White's final verdict, a declaration that the hype had dangerously outrun the on-court product, and that Clark had to earn her stripes the hard way, through pain and struggle, just like every legend before her. It was a powerful public statement that effectively stripped away the protective layer of her global hype and exposed her to the harsh criticism that she wasn't just a victim, but perhaps an unprepared rookie who needed to be humbled. This verdict, coming from a figure of such authority and a direct competitor, was a massive psychological blow. It served to validate the aggressive on-court tactics of her opponents and painted a picture of Clark as someone who needed this harsh lesson. This narrative was spreading like wildfire, all the way to the very top of the sport's governing body. While the public battle raged on television screens and social media feeds, a quieter, more complex, and potentially more destructive situation was unfolding within the four walls of the Indiana Fever's own house. General Manager Lynn Dunn, a legendary figure in women's basketball with decades of experience, was suddenly facing the most unique and volatile challenge of her entire career. How do you possibly build a cohesive, winning team when one player is a global supernova, a cultural icon, and the rest are, by comparison, orbiting in her immense shadow? The intense pressure wasn't just on Caitlin, It was an invisible weight on every single one of her teammates. In every interview, they were forced to answer questions about her. On the court, they had to watch her get hammered by opponents, forcing them into the impossible decision of whether to retaliate and risk ejection or to trust officials who often seemed to turn a blind eye. Whispers of resentment and jealousy, whether real or simply manufactured by a media hungry for drama, became impossible to ignore. Was the delicate team chemistry suffering? Players like Aaliyah Boston, the previous year's #1 pick and Rookie of the Year, suddenly found her own incredible talent overshadowed. Dunn's monumental job was to protect her franchise-altering player while simultaneously fostering a healthy, balanced locker room. She had to manage the sky-high expectations of a global fan base that demanded instant success and navigate the relentless media frenzy that dissected every single play, every win, and every devastating loss. The Fever's entire front office was walking the thinnest of tightropes over a canyon of controversy. They were attempting the difficult task of developing a young, rebuilding team. But the spotlight was so intensely and singularly focused on one player that it threatened to burn the entire project to the ground. The pressure was building to a critical, unsustainable point, and what happened next would be the final devastating blow that nobody, not even Clark herself, saw coming. Every great athlete dreams of representing their country on the world's biggest stage. The Olympic Games are the absolute pinnacle of sport, a rare opportunity to transcend team rivalries and unite under one flag, a chance to cement one's legacy forever. For Caitlin Clark, after a record-shattering college career and a historic, culture-shifting entry into the pros, a spot on the 12-woman roster for Team USA seemed like the next logical and inevitable step. In the public's mind, it was a foregone conclusion. The media speculated not on if she would make the team, but on how big her role would be. But the selection committee, the small, insulated group of decision-makers who hold the keys to these Olympic dreams, had been watching everything unfold. They saw the on-court struggles against hyper-physical opponents. They heard the powerful verdicts from respected coaches like Stephanie White, who represented the league's old guard. They undoubtedly felt the strong undercurrent of veteran sentiment that suggested Clark hadn't paid her dues, that she was trying to cut the line. And then, the news dropped like a nuclear bombshell. Caitlin Clark was left off the Olympic roster. It was a stunning, almost unbelievable decision that sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. The most popular and influential basketball player on the planet, the one single-handedly driving the sport's unprecedented growth, was deemed not good enough. The official reasons given by the committee were vague and centered on her lack of experience and her supposed defensive liabilities. But to the world, it looked like something else entirely. It felt like the definitive culmination of the weeks-long campaign against her. It was the ultimate, most public snub, a deafening declaration from the sport's highest establishment that she was not yet one of them. For a young athlete who had only known a meteoric rise and unparalleled success, this was the most profound and public professional rejection of her life. It was a childhood dream shattered on the world stage, and the emotional impact was reported to be immeasurable. This is where the entire saga comes full circle, leading back to the Indiana Fever's front office and the hidden truth behind the carefully crafted headlines. In the immediate aftermath of the Olympic snub, the world was watching Caitlin's every move, every expression. How would she possibly react to such a public humiliation? Would this be the blow that finally broke her? This is precisely when Fever GM Lynn Dunn stepped forward into the media firestorm. Publicly, her statements were a masterclass in supportive sports management PR. She talked at length about Caitlin's incredible resilience, her unshakable character, her mental strength, and her unwavering focus on helping the Indiana Fever win basketball games. But it was what she said between the lines, the subtext of her passionate defense, that served as the final, heartbreaking confirmation of the entire narrative. By repeatedly and emphatically emphasizing Clark's toughness and her amazing ability to handle so much, Dunn was indirectly confirming the immense and painful emotional toll this entire ordeal had taken on her young star. You don't need to constantly praise someone's resilience unless they have been forced to endure something that requires an extraordinary level of it. Her carefully chosen words painted a vivid picture of a young player who had been pushed to the absolute emotional limit. Sources close to the team reported that the Olympic news hit her harder than any physical hip check on the court. The idea of Caitlin Clark being in tears wasn't just a sensationalized headline, it was the completely human reaction of a young woman who had seen her lifelong dream viciously snatched away after being publicly targeted for weeks on end. Lynn Dunn's staunch defense of her star player was, in its own way, the confirmation everyone was looking for. She was confirming the struggle, the pain, and the urgent need for the entire organization to rally around a player who was not just a superstar athlete, but a person enduring a relentless, soul-crushing firestorm. The dust from that shocking Olympic decision is still settling, but one thing has become terrifyingly clear to the rest of the WNBA. In their attempt to break her, they may have accidentally created an unstoppable monster. In her very first game after the snub was officially announced, Caitlin Clark didn't look defeated. She didn't look sad. She looked possessed. She played with a cold, controlled fury, a level of aggression and pinpoint confidence that was visibly different. She wasn't just playing to win anymore. She was playing to prove a point, to make a statement to every single player who fouled her, every pundit who doubted her, and every committee member who had rejected her. Her response wasn't to complain to the media or to shrink from the spotlight. It was to get demonstrably better, visibly stronger, and far more relentless. She has publicly stated all the right things, saying she hopes the players who made the team win the gold medal, but her on-court actions tell a different story. She is weaponizing the rejection, transforming every bit of that disappointment into pure, unadulterated fuel. The a-holes who conspired to break her spirit might have just unleashed a version of Caitlin Clark that the WNBA is completely unprepared to handle. In the 5 games following the snub, she looked like a different player, hitting 30-footers with a vengeance and finding her teammates with a renewed sense of purpose. This period of intense public adversity, this trial by fire, is no longer just a rough patch. It is quickly becoming her villain origin story. The narrative is no longer about a talented rookie adjusting to the pros. It's now about a scorned superstar with a chip on her shoulder the size of a basketball court, and she looks ready, willing, and able to make every single one of her detractors pay dearly for their verdict. So, what is the final, undeniable truth in this complex and dramatic saga? We have witnessed a perfect storm of events converge on a single 22-year-old athlete. A brutal, almost systemic physical welcome to the pros. A cold and calculated public verdict from a respected rival coach that gave her opponents cover, and the crushing, soul-deep weight of a shattered Olympic dream, all but confirmed by a GM desperately trying to hold her franchise and her star player together. Was this a coordinated campaign fueled by raw jealousy, a concerted effort to humble the WNBA's new, outrageously popular queen? Or was this all simply the impossibly high and painful price of true, paradigm-shifting greatness? Perhaps the most frightening part for the rest of the league is that the answer to that question no longer matters. They threw everything they had at Caitlin Clark: physical intimidation, psychological warfare, and institutional rejection. And she is still standing, still selling out their arenas, and still hitting dagger threes from the logo. But now, there's a different kind of fire burning in her eyes. A cold fire that wasn't there before. The question is no longer if she can survive in the WNBA. The real question, the one that should keep every other team awake at night, is whether the league can survive the unstoppable, avenging force that it has just foolishly and arrogantly created.